Good morning and welcome to the Forex Daily Update, brought to you by Pepperstone on Tuesday the 16th of October 2018. I'm Darren Sinden and you can follow me throughout the day on Twitter by using @ds_Pepperstone. Right, let's take a look at the overnight changes and price moves to be aware of. A pretty calm session, pretty quiet session on the world's foreign exchanges, I think it would be fair to say. Nonetheless, there are still some points of interest to flag. First of all, the New Zealand dollar continuing to claw back gains against its US rival, up by another 1/4% yesterday to trade at 65.65 shortly before we came on air. The US dollar making gains for itself against the Swiss franc, gaining against a safe haven currency, adding 0.19% to the good in yesterday's session. Also making gains against a near neighbour, the US dollar gaining against the Mexican peso by 0.2% in yesterday's session. And dollar index 95.15 trading shortly before we recorded the video, up by around 0.1% over the course of yesterday. Still pretty close, or too close for comfort for some, to that 95 level, and that's certainly a figure that I'll be watching over the course of the coming days. Okay, Wim, what's on the calendar? Events that may move the markets today. A pretty compact calendar, though we've already had some interesting data and comment out this morning. We've heard from the RBA, and the RBA meeting minutes have been released, and we'll look at that in a bit more detail momentarily. And from China, we've had consumer price index and producer price index data for the month of September, and we'll look at a bit more detail at the PPI data as we go through the video. To come then at 8:30 GMT, we'll have unemployment and average earnings data out of the UK. The unemployment rate has been falling in the UK quite steadily. The question, I think, this time round is how are average earnings performing, and are wages keeping up with rising prices here in the UK? At 9 o'clock we shall have the influential ZEW survey out of Germany. This is economic sentiment and current situation data for the month of October from leading German industrialists. And then we'll have at 13:15 GMT industrial production and capacity utilization data out of the US for the month of September. And to round off proceedings at 21:20, we'll have a speech from the Reserve Bank of Australia Assistant Governor de Bell. It'll be very interesting to see what he says and if any of his comments echo the themes from the meeting minutes released at the start of the day. Okay then, let's have a look at the breaking news and comment that's caught my eye overnight. And first of all, China's September PPI has shown signs of a cooling economy, coming in at just 3.6% versus a 4.1% read in August, and this has been declining now as a metric, I should say, for several months in a row. Meanwhile, S&P has suggested that hidden local government debt in China could total $6 trillion, or some 60% of the country's 2017 GDP. Quite a staggering figure if that number is accurate. The Reserve Bank of Australia minutes showed that the bank remains upbeat on the economy, though concerned about tightening credit conditions in the country, and interest rates are to remain on hold in Australasia for now. And the US budget surplus has risen to $118 billion in September, well above expectations and the prior read of $8 billion. And just to remind you, the budget surplus is the difference between government spending and government revenues in a given month, or perhaps on an annualised basis. And given that the concerns over US spending and revenues, tax revenues, were one of the reasons behind last week's sharp fall, that's actually some pretty good news as far as the states are concerned. Although, of course, there are big elements of seasonality in these type of numbers. Right, well, let's take a look at food for thought, something to take away with you into the trading day and beyond, and why not think about this? Markets are forward-looking, and though we are more than 2 months away from the end of the year, thoughts are turning to the prospects for growth in 2019. September's PMI data, the Purchasing Managers Index data, showed falling new export orders across the globe, with only the UK seeing a pickup, and that's a concern if you're thinking about how the world can grow during 2019. Quite an interesting chart this from Market, very good source of information around PMIs, of course, as they conduct many of the flash surveys. You can see a sharp decline in Eurozone exports in the light blue line, and the purple line here as the UK had been falling, but it is bouncing now into September, and maybe that trend can continue into the end of the year. We shall see. Okay, please take a moment to read this risk warning. Trading CFDs and foreign exchange on margin can be a risky business. If you're in any doubt about those risks or the suitability of leverage products for you, then please do contact your Pepperstone account representative and do take a moment to read this risk warning thoroughly. Thank you for your time.